All right, so before we start today's video, before we start playing Resident Evil once again, I just wanted to have like a little dance party moment. You know, if you're new to this channel, this is just a kind of little hype moment that we get to have together. I don't like to tell people how to consume content, but we're dancing together like we're at a club. We're making the world our club kind of moment. But if you are a regular, then you absolutely already know what's up. I just woke up from a nap. It's a Monday ruled by the moon. I have a Cancer moon, and I typically like to take these days off, but I just love making videos so much. It's just so much fun. I literally just woke up from a nap, and I had Alter Ego by Doechii and JT playing on repeat in my head, and I was just thinking about songs that have literally saved my life. It's crazy. Like, music has been a lifeline to me in so many ways, so I put together a little short playlist of songs that I remember distinctively changing my life. So we're gonna start off with this one song that I discovered by an artist, just discovered. It was like 2022. I think that I stopped working at my previous job in like October of 2021. It was a good job, but I was working like 9 p.m. to 6 a.m., which was really fun. It had its perks for a very long time, but I was there for over a year, and it was starting to drive me crazy, and I didn't really get to see people. It was just like me by myself, so I jumped ship, and I was like, you know what, while I figure this out, I can go do a seasonal position at Old Navy, because there are always 150 people working at that fucking store. So I went there, and I, ended up meeting somebody really, really cool. I was just minding my own business, and I heard this girl talking from across the aisle, and I had not seen her in the 2 days that I had been there already, and I was like, oh, who is this? Because she had such a kind, cool, fun personality, just hearing her talk to the customers. And I just walked up to her. I can't tell you exactly what I said, but I was like, hey, what's your name? Because I wanted to know. And we ended up becoming really great friends from there. And I love her so much. She peacefully exited my life, which was fine because I was going through it at the time. So looking back, that's extremely understandable. But when she did leave, it did feel peaceful. It didn't feel like a fuck you. It just felt like we had so much going on in our lives that we had to kind of tackle it on our own. And even this past year, I watched some Adventure Time, and a show that she really, really enjoys. And there was an episode where I think Finn is trying to be the Ice King's best friend or something. And at one point, the Ice King thinks that Finn dies, and he just drops him on the ground, and he moves to the next thing. And Finn is pretty hurt by that. He was like, damn, he did not care if I lived or died. And Jake was like, Finn, I would literally hold you for 1,000 years. And something clicked in me. I was like, oh my God, I don't think I've ever had a friend do that until my friend from Old Navy. We're keeping her name anonymous for privacy reasons. And I was like, fuck. She literally held me for 1,000 years, because that was a perfect friendship in my eyes. I don't think I had ever had a friendship where we did hold each other, where it was just pure lightness and fun. I remember going over to her house and sitting with her by the lake and just seeing the sunshine on her. And I was like, damn, this person is so beautiful. I'm so lucky to have this person as my friend. So, and she stuck through a lot with me. It did feel like 1,000 years. And so, having that click was such a moment. But this first song was from the beginning of 2022. You know, I left Old Navy about like, I don't even know, like 4 or 5 days in. You know, Old Navy was my first job. I worked there for 6 years, and I thought that it would never get better. So when I ended up leaving, I went to this one place to go do laundry, and they entrusted me with the key to come in by myself. So, you know, coming back into this environment where they were really on top of everything that I do, you know, taking like 2 or 3 more minutes on my 15 after standing all day, bootlicking, they like brought me back in the office. They're like, Riley, this is unacceptable, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you know what? I can't do this. I know that there's better out there. I'm not gonna put up with this behavior. It's sick and twisted. I don't understand like the mindset that like a lot that goes on behind these people. You know, if you look at Katy Perry, you think that she's a billionaire. You know, she's had 5 diamond singles. She only has like $500,000. Or like 500 million, you know? I don't know, somewhere right there. So let's be serious, you know? Like, we are all the working class. I don't understand the like cognitive dissonance. Anyways, so I ended up leaving and I didn't find a job immediately. And it was like early 2022. And my cat, my baby, I don't think you can see it. Let me grab it. This painting, he's not here with us anymore, but this is who Nemo is. I painted this in 2022 because, you know, he ended up, like, developing this, like, fungus on his foot. Like, it was dry, and I thought that he just had, like, you know, dry feet. I was like, okay, let's rub some lotion on it. That was not the case. So if your cat's foot is ever dry, please take it to a vet. We did take him to a vet, but I guess it was just his time. But I was freaking out. I didn't have a job and I needed to be paying for the vet bills. And I discovered this artist. I had never, you know, I kind of grew up listening to this type of music, but, you know, I also grew up very sheltered. So I wasn't really allowed to listen to pop music. You know, I had my parents sit me down, turn on Kesha that they found on my phone, and they were like, do you know what an anus is? Or Love Game by Lady Gaga. And they were like, do you know what a disco stick is? No, but now I do, and that's your fault. So anyways, so I really, you know, started off with pop music. I had to kind of develop that taste on my own. You know, I discovered Lady Gaga from kids at school. They were like, have you seen the Telephone music video? And I'm like, what? And it was the fucking psychotic ever since. But, so this kind of sound I really hadn't listened to since I was a child. So it was kind of this new, like, experience for me. But, I remember listening to this and, like, being on the floor in my bedroom. I was, like, a fucking alcoholic at this time. I did go to rehab in 2022, and I've been clean ever since. But I was listening to this, like, really, really, really contemplating my life. And I was like, damn, should I really leave? I want to see what else this girl releases, you know? So we're going to listen to that one next, and then we'll get to the one after that. So this one is kind of a heavier vibe, but the rest are all like, but it's still a banger, you know? This is by Maggie Lindman. But it's all inside my mind. Nah, that song is so crazy. Even listening to today is kind of psychotic, because that is literally like what a lot of these like tribulations have felt like. You know, it literally feels so paralyzing sometimes, especially when you haven't had like too many people positively influencing you. it is very scary, having these people be like, no, it's you, it's your fault. And, I already like mentally punish myself, if something doesn't work out. I'm like, I'm fucked up. It's the end of the world. It's never gonna get better. And it does feel very paralyzing. It makes me feel very paranoid, So I listened to this song and I was like on the floor in the darkness, like sobbing. I'm like, please, I don't want to end my life, but like I need it to get better. It didn't immediately get better, but with time, it did, and also some like perspective shifts. But I did have a really cool friend to help and hold me through a lot of that. I never, ever, ever, ever had that before. I've had friends who have shamed me for feeling what I feel. People who have called me crazy, but she held me and she said, it's gonna be okay. And she was right. It is absolutely okay. So let me continue to share that. It will be okay. Just like Sonic petting that Chow. He said, it's okay, buddy. No, it's true, it's true. All right. So this next one was also in 2022. This is right before I went to rehab. I was really drinking heavily. Like, my cat was sick. I didn't know what to do. I didn't really have a job in a sense. Well, I did. And they were just overworking me. They functioned off a skeleton crew, and I was constantly on the register when I like to fold. It made me go crazy. I was waking up almost every day at the same hour, same routine. Nothing is like shifting, and they just have me on this register. And I keep hoping to myself, I'm like, maybe they'll like see my true skills at the folding department. No. So I ended up like, I don't think I drank for a while, actually. I think this is when I actually started to get bad, because I had that shift, or like I had to like keep going in and doing the same thing over and over, and it was something I hated. But it was like all these managers who like loved my work. They loved like everything about me and my personality, which was something I really hadn't experienced before. So I didn't want to like make them upset by being like, please don't put me on this fucking register anymore. But they function off a skeleton crew, which means like 2 or 3 people on the floor, which is unsustainable, but that's another conversation. And it drove me a little balls to the wall insane. I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna start like downing all the alcohol I can find, and I ended up quitting at like the worst possible time. Even though everything ended up working out all right. My cat did pass away when I was in rehab, unfortunately, not because of what he was sick with, but because he found a cord and chewed on it. I don't know why he did that. And I always like wondered to myself, I would freak out a lot of the times because I've been trying to move out of my house since I was a child, you know. And I felt like the reality of that was, getting closer, because I was trying to like, at one point move into an apartment, and a lot of these apartments like don't allow a pet. And I was like, how am I gonna do this? And especially with my dreams, like I want to like travel the world and stuff. So it kind of felt like a quiet goodbye. Like when my mom called me and told me that he did that, I said, fucking god damn it. Like, why did you do that? I like, it felt like it made sense. Like I understand him and I just have to respect it. But now, like when I'm driving, because I did always have this dream of like being able to like show him the world, but he was a very scared cat. He did not like to leave the house. So sometimes I'll be like driving and like the sun is kissing my face, and I'll be like, oh my god, Nemo is like seeing this with me right now. which is crazy. Like, even when I rearranged my bedroom to do all of this, like, these lights weren't like this. I had to move them because some of them don't turn on. But when I rearranged them on my TV in front of my bed, it literally makes the shape of a cat. I did not plan it out that way. It just appeared that way, and it looks like a cat. I got in bed after doing, all my rearranging, and I was like, whoa, that literally looks like a cat. So I 100% believe he is still with me, and he's just taken on a different form, and he most definitely will come back because I have dreams about getting old and having a cat house, running a house just full of cats. And kind of customizing this house, like putting tunnels in the walls and stuff so they can just do whatever their brains want to. I want it to be built around cats. So I will definitely see him again one day. I always knew if he ever did leave me, I would be able to like spot him out in an instant. So this next song was, Demi Lovato had released some like rock music at this point, which was great, but like probably not that great for my depression. But Beyonce, so we've all probably heard this song. Beyonce started, I think, the campaign of her new album Renaissance, and the first song she released, it literally like ignited a fire in me. I was like, fuck no, you're not gonna break my soul. So let's listen to this song. Take out the even though it felt like my whole entire life was falling apart, that song kept me going in a sense, I was like, okay, I'm literally gonna like fight right now. Like, it feels like everything is going to break my soul, but getting to hear that came out at such a perfect time in my life because I was like, okay, Beyonce, I can do this. I can fight. And I did. I ended up going to rehab, and it was an amazing experience. It wasn't like your typical locked down facility. It was a very like relaxed environment. It was like near the woods. They kept us like going outside every day. We had like a schedule, and it was just a really nice environment of people. Vibes were just like unmatched. I met some really amazing people in there, and got to heal a part of me because I feel like I've had a really bad relationship with men. So that was one thing that was really scary, was I absolutely had to be in a house full of boys for obvious reasons, and it was nothing, a lot of them made me feel safe in their space, and that kind of healed something in me because I really, because I used to have friends who were guys, just like regular friends, up until like I think 8th grade, 9th grade, they started to dissolve because that's when everyone's like, ah, gay. And obviously, they didn't fuck with me. I was getting called a faggot in 5th grade. I didn't even know what faggot meant. So it was really nice to kind of like heal that part, and not feel like taken advantage of. So yeah, it was a really great experience, and I feel like, that reignited some life into me. So fast forward into like 2023, the end of the year, one of my favorite artists, Aisha Erotica, who, when I listened to her the first time back in like July of 2018, my life like literally shifted. This is when I was like first listening to Kim Petras, and like Slater. I've been listening to Charlie XCX since like 2014, so whatever. But I think, no, I think Pop 2 came out in 2017. So I discovered Aisha Erotica in like July of 2018, and something shifted. I was like, oh, this is going to change my life. And it has. It has changed my life in so many ways. I've never had an artist I have really, I mean, I have before, but for me, I really, really vibe with like the Charlie XCX, Slater, That Kid, Kim Petras, and Aisha Erotica like type music. It really like shifted my like point of view, and just the way I like continue to carry myself into this world. I really like the aesthetics behind it all, the very like light kind of fun pop vibes. I feel like when I first like heavily was like really, really getting into Aisha Erotica, you know, around like 2019, you know, I felt like I based my personality a lot around her, which is understandable. She's a badass. But she ended up retiring, I think, towards the end of 2019 because a bunch of twinks ended up doxing her. And she was like, I can't do this, understandably. So, you know, I made my, like, peaceful goodbye with her. And, you know, throughout the years, I would, like, be following the, like, subreddit. And all these people are like, so when's she gonna come back? And I'm like, she's never coming back. These twinks literally upload her music to streaming services and make money off of her. Like, why would you want to come back? You know, but I don't know what I was doing. I think that I was working at like a job that I didn't want to be at. I was there for only like 3 days. But I got like a notification at the end of my shift that something had been posted by her on SoundCloud, and I was like, what the fuck? And she literally made a comeback, and she's releasing music today, which is so sick. That to me was like another reason to live. You know, this song, it's very short, it's very Pink Panthers coded, but the lyrics are kind of like deep and meaningful. You know, if you like really listen to what she's talking about, you know, checking my daily Bible verse, shit's never getting better. That has felt like me a lot. I feel like in 2019, I really honed in. Like, I took my religious trauma and shifted it to signs, like angel numbers. And I have spent a lot of my life, or like the past couple of years, like focusing on that and being like, oh, if I don't see, you know, 222, my life is fucking over. Which kind of went into play with my psychosis. You know, something that I learned in that moment. Yeah, but Aisha Erotica, so this song saved my life in a sense of giving me something more to live for, because everything she releases is a fucking banger. But even in July, maybe we should listen to that song too. We actually will. Okay, so let's listen to this one. This one was at the end of 2023. It's a very short song, but it was her comeback song, and everything shifted. You know, I really, really enjoy her pre-retirement releases so much, and they definitely like have their place in history. Like literal legend, everybody knows that song. She is a household name. But I really, really resonate with this new era of music. If I thought her old music was good, damn, Riley, you have no idea what you're in for, you know? So let's continue. This is Mary Magdalene. If it'll fucking play. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see anything. Something about it. It just, All right. So that was Mary Magdalene, a very short and sweet and cute, fun song, kind of reignited life into me. I didn't know she was going to be making a comeback. That was literally in my wildest dreams, because I really did not blame her for wanting to leave. Twinks today are still uploading her older music and still making money off of it and still making it hard for her to release. But she is releasing on streaming services, which is amazing and a gift to us today. Fast forward to, so that was the end of 2023. So towards the end, or around like July of 2023, I ended up going back to that job where I was a cashier all the time, but this time I started doing the AM shifts and, coming in at like 5 a.m. and, doing like the boxes, which was fun. But I did not get enough hours. I was working like 4 or 5 a.m. to 10. So that was like 4 or 5 hours twice a week. It was not enough. The only person I liked there was a twink who loved Taylor Swift. He was hilarious and funny and always brought the energy. But he ended up leaving. And I was like, whoa, guess that's my cue. And I ended up jumping also. So sometime after leaving this other job, I kind of like opened my heart back up to like meeting people, whether it's friends or romantical. And I ended up meeting who I thought was a really cool person on Grindr, of all places. That should have been my first red flag. But he was like nobody I'd ever met before. He was like all the dream guys I've ever dreamt, combined. I used to be like 13 years old in the closet on my like little depressing Tumblr black and white photos blog. And I saw like a picture it was like in a cartoon style of like two gay guys, like, walking through the woods and like growing up and getting old together. And like this person was literally like, I was like, oh my God, I feel like this is something that I asked for. Like I was getting flashes. I felt like it was a cool like friendship in a way. And that was something that I really and still, kind of prioritize in a potential like romantical partner, is like, the friendship definitely needs to come first, like if we're not friends, then what's the point? So I feel like I really like saw something in him, but I was starting to follow my human design around this time, and I felt like I wasn't in the right spot to be like a good friend. So I kind of slowly like distanced myself, and I thought to myself, okay, if he actually wants to speak to me, he will reach out in a heartfelt way. I felt like he wanted to talk about sex a lot. And I felt like I wasn't enough, like I needed to like perform and shrink myself to make him like me. He was like telling me to do things like go work at like Starbucks, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to do that. I can't fucking like that environment is like not it for me. And I just felt like I was kind of like looked down at because I wasn't willing to like just do that. And I was right, I waited and I waited and I waited. I shopped through multiple jobs until I found an amazing place that absolutely delivered everything in all my hopes and desires. My human design was absolutely 100% correct. And the work didn't feel like work. I was making, I mean, it was work, but it did not feel like work. I enjoyed who I worked for. I got to fold, and the person that I worked for appreciated my folding. She believed in me and breathed capabilities into me, and I'll never ever forget it. So I'm 100% glad that I ended up staking out through all the pain and tribulation of like having to go and shop through different jobs in order to find one that truly fits. So I ended up like kind of distancing myself, And he didn't really reach out. He found me on another like gay sex app, and all he did was tap me, and I was like, okay. You can't even say hello. Like, so and one thing about human design is like not lowering your standards. So, in my head, I'm like, I deserve someone who wants to speak to me. You shouldn't have to beg for love. But, some time passed, and, I would notice things, just tiny things, and I would think about him. I'm like, oh, if he was here right now, I would want to like tell him about this, So I ended up like speaking to this one guy who was really cool. He was so kind in the sense of sex was not a priority at all. But I felt like I couldn't meet him there because he felt so, and there's nothing wrong with this, but he felt so, like romantically, focused versus friendship. I didn't feel like there was a lot of friendship involved. It's just like, you're a cutie, blah, blah, blah. And I get bored after a while, Um, and so I sent him the longest message ever because he's one of the sweetest people I've ever come into contact with. If I have come into contact with any men who have been that respectful, it's him plus two others. That's how rare it is, So I like sent him a big long message. I was like, listen, I love you so much to the like deepest ends of the earth, which still is true today. You are so like worth, everything that you like want and desire, and I want you to have that, because I felt like I couldn't meet him there. Just telling him, like, please don't ever like fucking give up. Please don't let any guy ever tell you that, like you're not enough and your desires are not valid. But like something shifted after that, I was like, oh my God, this person I was speaking to was absolutely everything I wanted because I really do value like a friendship, and we shared a lot of interests. And that to me is such a important factor in that kind of relationship bonding moment. But I think that like June had rolled around and I saw someone post about the Pulse shooting, and I got triggered. I got triggered so fucking bad. I was like, oh my God, this person could literally die and I wouldn't know about it. I would be so, like, I don't know what I would do, So in July, I literally, like, even though I kind of went against my human design, I was like, I have to, like, find this person and speak to him again. I couldn't, like, I couldn't remember his Snapchat username because it wasn't, something that's just like first and last name. So I requested an archive. I said, please give me a list of everybody that I've sent messages to over the last year. I seeked them out. I added him and I sent him the biggest, longest message. I don't think I have ever written something so heartfelt in my life. I told him, I said, I don't even care about romance. I literally just want to be your friend. And he proceeded to say, can we fuck? I kind of shrunk myself in that moment. Not my proudest, but at least I'm aware now. I said, well, I guess. And he did not respond. Thank you for respecting that. But so he left me on red, and then I ended up sending another message, and I was like, damn, I feel like I fucked this friendship up, blah, blah, blah. And he just unadded me, and it sent me down the hole. I literally saw him in everything, just regular activities, things that I would enjoy. I'm like, oh, I see you here, or like even cats. I'm like, ooh, I see you here. So it really messed with my brain. It really made me believe that that was all I was worth, because I had already been like going through kind of like this, like allowing sex to define my worth. So I was like, damn, my life is over, because there was a man who was lingering from my past, who wanted to literally sell my body. You know, zero autonomy for me. And so I thought that it was like the end of my life, you know. I really thought I lost like the best friend of my like whole life. And I was like sobbing every day. I don't think it had ever been this bad before, you know. When I, in the two previous like actual heartbreaks that I had had, the ones that were like serious in my mind, the first one was awful, you know. And then the second one after that, I remember being in my detached garage, hitting my bong and sobbing, like ugly, like borderline yelling, sobbing. And I thought to myself, I said, if this ever happens again, I might actually die. And it's crazy because I literally almost did. So after he did that, after he just unfriended me, after I was like, are we not friends anymore? You know, also another large, like heartfelt message. Um, I like, it was horrible. You know, I felt like a limb had literally been like ripped from my body. Um, I could not eat. I would go and get my favorite meal, you know, some like hibachi, and I would be sobbing the whole time. I couldn't eat it, you know, my tears would be falling into the food. I couldn't play Project Diva. I was sobbing. I was doing anything to like distract me from the fact that this shit fucking hurts. I couldn't see the fucking symbols flying on the screen because my eyes were so full of tears. And I remember waking up one morning and I said, if I don't get help right now, I'm literally gonna go to the store, buy myself a bottle of liquor, and down all my pills, because I just can't do this anymore. And thank God I did, because I ended up, my little brother took me to the hospital. So I got admitted, but there were some things that I realized while I was there. So first of all, the ER was full of sick people. I thought, oh my God, I'm trying to kill myself over a boy. But I got into the room, the nurses fed me, they turned on SpongeBob, and I started to feel better. I was like, you know what? I think everything will be okay. So then I started listening to this song that we're about to listen to, and I really, it kind of brought me back to life. It was Aisha Erotica. Once again, you know, every song she releases, you know, it's such a shock to me every single time, because I'm like, fuck, she cannot make a bad song. So I started singing this song to myself, and I immediately felt better. So in a sense, this song saved my life. I did end up leaving the hospital the same day because I was trying to hit my vape, you know. But everyone told me, you know, even the nurse who I thought was high, and then she ended up asking me as I was being discharged, she was like, is that a CBD vape? And I'm like, no. She's like, I got one. And I'm like, damn, I was curious because you're acting a little silly right now, you know? But they all like validated me. They were like, no, that's not okay. He doesn't like you, if that was his response, you know? And that's true. But, you know, I also had a really big revelation in that sense, because there was a lot of me that was like punishing myself for wanting and like feeling those things. Like, I was telling myself that I was wrong for wanting a relationship, or I was wrong for wanting a friendship. And I was punishing myself. But when I got out of the hospital, something clicked, like that image of the girl breaking free. That there's nothing wrong with me. I may be mentally ill, yeah, sure, whatever. But like wanting something as simple as friendship, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So this is the song that I sang to myself in the hospital, kind of brought myself out of the mood. This one's called Hot Dog Hooker by Aisha Erotica. Like Cupcake said, she writes all these lyrics and she's still a virgin. So it's kind of fun to have like a moment. But that was some character development for me that came later after this fact. All right, I turned off the like giant light in front of me. I mean, probably should have done that earlier. It's fine. We like this little like galaxy projector light vibe going on. I won't lie. Ever since getting a galaxy projector in my bedroom, it makes going to sleep 500 times easier, and also the vibe is just unmatched. So yeah. I'll breathe for a second. So yeah, that song definitely saved my life for the time being. I think I went, a lot of my life actually changed after that hospital moment. Nothing is wrong with me. It ended up playing out into a lot of aspects of my life in a sense of like, it may sound silly, but like posting on my Instagram, I like vlogging, like MySpace kind of era vlogging or blogging, just really going back to that time where, Beyonce was posting pictures of like a Cheeto bag and like posting inspirational quotes. Like I have always fought the fucking status quo. And I had tried launching that in a sense in 2019. And, it was kind of messy in 2020, which is, valid, trial and error. And I kind of stopped. I said, okay, let me step away for a minute and just come back to this with a clearer mindset. And I did. And this time my blog looked like nothing else I had like seen or like ever put together myself. I was so proud of it. I'm still proud of it today. I'm proud of the progress I've made today. And I also integrated human design with my posts, and it just looked 10 times better than I had ever imagined. But at some point, I was still like listening to the signs, 222, 333. And I remember being at work and I was really like hung over this like dude who obviously does not care if I am alive or dead. And I was just like really going through it, and I kept like hearing signs, which is like honestly schizophrenia looking back, and it's, still fucking schizophrenia. And I'm like, this is a bad sign, this is a bad sign. And I like shifted my perspective. I said, wait a minute. What if everything can be a good sign? Who's saying it's a bad sign? And it kind of went bad from there. I don't want to say bad because I was having like the time of my life, just believing that everything is great. And I still I still try to like carry that perspective into today, obviously without getting delusional. But so, that's when I thought he was just going to magically appear at my household. And then when I realized that he wasn't, I had, a lot of revelations. There was a lot actually to learn through my psychosis moment. And one of those was like not giving up on my life, that like the dream boy one like lives inside of me, and I can't let something or somebody dictate whether I live or die. So because to me, that man who wanted to like sell my soul, that was like disrespect to myself. And I don't think I realized how much like that was such a replacer for like actually killing myself. So, even today, like I'll hear like I'll be out in public just minding my own business, and I'll hear like a creak, like someone like takes a step or something and it sounds like something. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, it's speaking to me. This is actual schizophrenia. So even some days it does feel harder than others. Like, it feels like I'm doomed, but those honestly feel like old versions of myself. They actually are old versions of myself, like clearing out of my head, because I would repeat things to myself, just awful things like, you're a fucking stupid bitch, you deserve to die. And so I heard this song. I don't know, like, why I thought of it. This was a song that I listened to after the first guy that really broke my heart in 2019, which I didn't really realize until earlier this year, how much psychological trauma came from that. I watched Moral Oral, and one of the nurses on there, she is a school nurse, and she constantly is like sucking the principal's dick, like literally. And it shows like her home life in one of the later episodes. Like, she comes home to like this very like cute environment. She's got like stuffed animals everywhere, and she sits down at this table and she's like talking to them like they're her family. And at some point, like, one of them, like, something drops off the table and she bends down to like pick it up, and one of them gets knocked over on her like a stuffed animal. It touches her and she freaks the fuck out, and she's like, why are you touching me, teddy bear? You're being so disgusting right now. And then milk fell on her face and she literally had a mental breakdown. That happened to me. Literally, like, sometime afterward, after the 2019 man, I like was sleeping shirtless in my bed, and my cat was curled up next to me, being a little angel. And I woke up and I was like, why the fuck are you touching me right now? And I literally, like, I don't want to say I threw him, because I didn't like throw him, literally, but I threw him off of me, and I was just in shock. I was like, why the fuck are you touching me? But it didn't like click, and because I always felt bad after that. I never really understood why I did that, but when I watched that scene, I was like, holy fucking shit. That man traumatized me more than I even realized. And I threw my baby, the love of my life, off of me. And he wasn't doing anything. He wasn't going to hurt me, If there is any creature or being on this earth that I should trust the most, it should be my baby, my little black cat, Nemo. And I love him. I know he understands today, But it was kind of crazy, like, the psychological effects these things have on a person. So I was listening, after he decided to like cut me off or whatever, and they were all like gaslighting me. I was, really depressed at first, but then I got like really angry. I was like, I don't deserve this like behavior. I deserve the best of the best. And so I was listening to an artist whose song was going big. I don't know if TikTok existed at that time, but it was Stupid, Stupid Boy Think That I Need Him, by Ash Nico. And so I was like listening to the EP, and I heard this, because I still sometimes get like bits of doubt. Like, I'm like, oh, I'm not doing everything correctly. I'm fucking doomed no matter what I'm doing. And then I don't know what it was. Maybe I was like looking back at an old playlist, but I found this song that I used to listen to from that EP. It's called Hi, It's Me. And the fucking lyrics, she said, hi, it's me, your best friend, here to tell you that you do not need him. And I said, what the fuck? That, it was amazing then, but it is more meaningful now than it was then. So we're gonna listen to that.
When I'm with you, I have amnesia.
We're so over. Damn, like, hearing that back then was great, but hearing it now, I felt like I got revisited from my old past self and was like, babes, that is not okay. You literally, nothing is worth ending your life over. And like I've said in my previous videos, if you have watched my Mario Kart tour video, specifically in the beginning, I have like a conversation about how it's fucked up. You know, I feel like society has this weird like standard that like ties value to our body. That was like one thing in my psychosis. I was like, thank God I don't have to go and sell my body, you know. But the only person that's gonna save me is me, and I know at the end of the day that I don't deserve that. If you've ever felt that way, please don't do that. Let me hold your hand right now, be your best friend, and tell you that he's not worth it. Please turn your back right the fuck now. I've got you. Everything will be okay, okay? So this song, we're about to be done. We have this song and then a little encore moment that's also by Ashniko, because I was like, damn, this just goes a little hard right now. I just heard this in my dreams. You know, I have been around people who have made me second guess myself, in the sense of it feels like a past version of myself, because I've been very paranoid and second guessed other people's intentions, and that kind of energy makes me want to shrink myself and second guess my own intentions. But you know, those things like aren't even true. You know, sometimes we make up things. Well, actually, I don't want to say that. I feel like trauma can create that, but it is counterproductive, you know, being in my position or anybody else's position who's had to like go through something, to like, especially when you are like second guessing yourself from things that like aren't even true. You know, like, I'm an awful person because I didn't respond soon enough, you know, that kind of stuff. And that really makes me paranoid. And I remember like being with people who made me feel like I need to shrink myself, or perform a certain way. And I heard this song come on, and like everybody else's worries disappeared. Everybody else's paranoia disappeared. I have nothing but the best intentions for people. I want nothing but the best for people. So I heard this song came on. I said, fuck it. And I just went hard as fuck in this car, you know, even just by myself. But you know, I've actually been freaking out a little bit recently, just, you know, like just certain aspects of my life not happening as soon as possible externally. And I don't know what it was, maybe like 2 days ago or something, I woke up and I said, this feels like 2020 again, in the best way possible, because 2020 honestly did offer some amazing experiences for me. I got to meet some amazing people. It kind of feels like quarantine again for me, in the best way possible. Like, I'm just relaxing now and I'm just having a good time. I feel like something shifted, like the veil is lifting. And I took my nap today and I heard this song in my dream on repeat. And yeah, something like triggered me, and it got me thinking about music that saved my life. This was initially going to be like a short intro video, but this is obviously going to be a whole fucking conversation. Yeah, so let's listen to this. We all know this song. This is Alter Ego by Doechii and JT.
Now I'm gonna give y'all another hit.
This song goes so hard.
Oh my God.
Moral of the story, don't ever let anybody tell you what you are, what you're not. Chase your motherfucking dreams. Believe in yourself. And don't let any of these motherfucking fuckers ever fuck you up. I'm so serious. the mindsets. There are mindsets that allow us to believe we deserve certain things. But please believe in yourself and know you absolutely deserve the best. I love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in for this dance party, this little moment. Music has literally saved my life in so many ways. I'm curious to hear how music has saved your life, and it will continue to save all of our lives. And that's so beautiful. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Probably going to do that Resident Evil video after this. And peace out.